Good morning. Today we are going to see about the CPU scheduling. CPU scheduling consists of cycles of CPU execution and I/O wait. So we have to select the process from the ready queue. This process is done by the short-term scheduler. We can say the short-term scheduler also a CPU scheduler. And then one more thing we have to see about that dispatcher. The control of the CPU is given by the dispatcher only. So the function of the dispatcher is a switching contest and switching between the jobs, and we have to jump into a correct location of a user program to restart the program. These are the functions of the dispatchers. Before going to see about the types of CPU scheduling, we have to go see about the CPU scheduling criteria. CPU criteria. First, we have to see about the CPU utilization. CPU utilization means we have to keep the CPU busy. This is the CPU utilization. And then next we can see about the throughput. Throughput means number of processes could be executed a particular period of time. For example, we have to execute the 10 process the 1 hour, although we can say as the 10 process can be executed within the some periods of times. We have the throughput, the number of process should be executed the particular period of time. And then we can see about the turnaround time. Turnaround time is the time gap between the process submission and the process finished. It is the time gap between the process submission and the process finished. The time in between the time gap, we can include that waiting of the process in the ready queue and waiting of the process into a memory and then I/O wait. These are the things we have to include in the turnaround time. Turnaround time means we have to give the time gap between the process submission and the process completions. And the next one we can see about the response time. Response time means time taken to responding. Time taken to start responding is the response time. These are the CPU criteria. And then next we can see about the schedulings, types of schedulings in the CPU. First we going to see about the first come first serve. So we can say is the FCFS. And then second we can see about the shortest job first. Third we are going to see about this priority scheduling. And then fourth we can see about the round robin. And then fifth, multi-level queue scheduling. And then sixth, we can see about the multi-feedback queue scheduling. First, we are going to see about the first come, first serve scheduling. Before we have to see about the scheduling, we have to know about the preemptive and non-preemptive scheduling. Preemptive and non-preemptive. Preemptive scheduling means we can take the control of the CPU in the middle. So while allocated the CPU to the one process, we can take the control of the CPU in the middle is a preemptive scheduling. In the non-preemptive scheduling, we cannot take the control of the CPU in the middle. Once we allocated, the CPU control will be released on the termination of the process, or it will be go for the waiting state. The CPU control will be released. So these are the two terms we have to know about the before entering into a scheduling: preemptive and non-preemptive. And then in this types, the first come first serve should be a non-preemptive scheduling. And then SJF, this shortest job first, we can say as the SJF. This scheduling may be act as a primitive and non-primitive, and the priority scheduling should be act as a primitive and non-primitive, and then round robin scheduling also act as a primitive and non-primitive scheduling. So now we're going to see about the first come first serve scheduling process. Now we are going to see about this first come first serve scheduling. So we have to how to schedule this this problem by using the first come first serve process. So we have first we are going to draw the Gantt chart. So the Gantt chart is the chart to represent how will be scheduling. The process should be scheduled. So I already said that first come first serve is a non-primitive scheduling. So non-primitive means we cannot take that control of the CPU in the middle. So we have to schedule the process according to the arrival time. Here in this problem, the process 1 is come in the 0 milliseconds, and process 2 in enter into a ready queue in the in 1 millisecond, and process 3 entered in a 2 millisecond, and process P4 entered in a 3rd millisecond, and P5 is entered into a 4th millisecond. So it is a non-primitive process. So we have to schedule by according to the arrival time. So here in the 0th millisecond, only the one process is entered into a ready queue. So it should be a P1. So we have to allocate to the process P1. So P1 is allocated to, CPU is allocated to the P1. So it start scheduling. So we already said that it should it is not a primitive, so it is a non-primitive. So we cannot take the control the CPU in the middle. So we have to finish the process up to 10. So we cannot take the control. So after finishing the P1 only, we can schedule the other process because it is a non-primitive. So while at the time of 10 millisecond, while checking the queue, we can identify that the P2, P3, P4, P5 entered in that. So we have to schedule the process according to the arrival time. So the next arrival time of the process is P2, and then next one is be a P3, and the next will be a P4, and the next will be the P5. And then here P2 is a burst time is 5. So burst time is here the time taken to execute in the CPU. So the P2 will be finished at the 15th millisecond, and then P3 burst time is 7. So 15 plus 7, it will be finished in 22 milliseconds, and then P4 burst time is 2. So it should be finished in 24th millisecond, and then P5 burst time should be 3. So it will be finished in 27th millisecond. And then we have to calculate the waiting time and then turnaround time for the each process. We already seen about the turnaround time. So now I'm telling that waiting time. Waiting time is the time spending into the ready queue before allocating to the CPU. So we have to calculate that. So for the each process, for the process P1 and P2, P3, P4 and then P5. So the waiting time is calculated for the P1 is, so here the process is entered into a 0 millisecond. So there is no waiting in here for a allocation of the CPU. So here the waiting time is 0. And then turnaround time. So we can say as the turnaround time is a TAT. So turnaround time is waiting time plus burst time. So we already said the turnaround time means we have to add the time of the spending in a queue and time waiting for enter into a memory and then CPU burst and then I would all adding of all this we can get the turnaround time. Here we have to add the waiting time and the burst time. So the burst turnaround time for the process P1 is 0 plus 10. So here 10. For the process P2, we have to calculate the waiting time. So the process is entered into a queue at the 1 millisecond, but we have to allocate the CPU to finish that process at the time of 10 only. We can get that value from the Gantt chart. So here 10 minus 1, so the equal to 9. So waiting time for the P2 is a 9. So turnaround time is 9 plus 5. We can get that 14. And then next for the process P3, so we allocated a CPU to finish the process P3 at the 15. So 15 minus that arrival time is 2. So here the waiting time for the process P3 is 13 and then turnaround time is 13 plus 7, 20. And then process waiting time for a P4. So here 22 minus and then arrival time is 3. So here 19 plus and then burst time 2. So here 21 and here P5 waiting time is we have to CPU allocated the time of 24 millisecond. It should be available in the queue is a 4 millisecond. So here 24 minus 4 we can say as the 20 and then 20 plus 3. So here 23. In this ways we have to calculate the waiting time and then turnaround time. So which process having a less waiting time would be a good process executions. The waiting time should be always less to execute the each process. So in this way we can find out the schedule the first come first serve process. Okay. Now you're going to say about the shortest job first scheduling, SJF. See, I already said that it may be act as a non-primitive and primitive. So now first we're going to see about the non-primitive shortest job first scheduling. So we have to draw the Gantt chart. At the time of in this problem, at the time of 0th millisecond, P1 process entered into a queue. At millisecond 1, P2 process, and 2nd millisecond P3, and 3rd millisecond P4 process, and then 4th millisecond P5 process entered. So now we're going to see about the shortest job first non-primitive. So non-primitive means we cannot take the control of the CPU in the middle. So we're going to schedule that. So at the time of 0th millisecond, only the one process in the queue. So this process P1. So we have to allocate CPU to the process P1. At the same time, after finishing the process P1, because it is a non-primitive, we cannot take the control of the CPU in the middle. We have to let it to be finished the P1 process. So P1 process will be finished at the time of 10th millisecond. So while checking the queue in the 10th millisecond, we can check that. So the process P2, P3, P4 and P5 entered into a queue. So why all the process entered into the queue now. So now you have to check the burst time. So because it is a shortest job first, which which process having a less number of CPU burst time, we have to schedule that process first. So it already P1 finished. So remaining we have a 4 process at the time of 10 millisecond. While checking these 4 process and then P4 having a less burst time. So we have to allocate the CPU for the P4 and then next after finishing the P4 then we have to check the remaining process. Remaining process में P5, P3 and P2. So while checking that P2, P3, P5 and P5 having a less burst time. So we have to allocate to the P5. And then next we have to go for a P2 and then P3. So in this way we have to schedule the shortest stop first. And then as it is in the first come first serve, we have to calculate the waiting time and turnaround time. Waiting time and turn around time. So here for the process P1, so there is no waiting time. It entered into a process at the 0 millisecond only. So here there is no waiting time. So 0 plus and then turnaround time is waiting time plus and then burst time. So here 10, 0 plus 10. We have to say that we have to give turnaround time is 10. And then next for the process P2, we have to find out that. So the process P2 is entered at the arrival time is 1 millisecond, but we have allocated the CPU at the time of 15 millisecond. So 15 minus 1, it's a 14 and then turnaround time is 14 plus and then next it's be a 5. So here turnaround time is 19 and the process P3, so we allocated the process to finish at the time of 20 millisecond. So 20 minus the arrival time is 2, so waiting time is 18 and then 18 plus 7, here 25 and then for the process P4, so we allocated CPU at the time of 10 and then its arrival time is 3. So here waiting time is 7 and the turnaround time is 7 plus 2, 9 and then for the process P5, we allocated the process at the time of 20. So at the time of 12 minus 4, here 8 plus and then here burst time is 3, so turnaround time is 11. So according to this we have to schedule the shortest stop first scheduling process. Thank you.